In money matters, the JSE is on track for a day of gains, firming along with the global markets, with tech stocks rebounding from this week's slump. Investors are awaiting the U.S. Federal Reserve's monetary policy meeting outcome to see how hawkish or not the committee will be around future rate hikes, sentiment that may affect domestic trade. Michael Treherne is portfolio manager at Vestact, and he joins us to talk us through the latest moves at this hour. So, good afternoon to you, Michael. Thanks for joining us. It looks like we are back to gains on the local bourse. What's driving the sentiment?
Good afternoon, Dudu. It's great to see a very strong day on the JSE. We're up 3.3% as I see it, and that's after having a terrible Monday and Tuesday. Gains are being driven by positive news coming out of China. The government saying that they're going to stay neutral in the war with Russia and Ukraine is seen as positive. But ultimately what's driving the good news is that the Chinese government said that they're going to ease off on their tech companies. And we've seen a lot of their tech companies up over 20% this morning on that news. And as a result, we're seeing Naspers and Prosus up 18% today. And that's driving all our markets higher.
Let's take a look at news on Prosus. They have lost their top spot at the JSE equities list after the 10-cent fall. Talk us through those developments and who has taken over.
Yes, so even though Prosus is up 18% today, it's still well down from its highs, over 40% down. And replacing them is BHP Billiton, which is worth about 2.4 trillion rand. Prosus is only worth 1.5 trillion, so it is quite a big value gap. But it's because we've seen the issues with the Chinese tech stocks, and that's why we've seen Prosus fall so much over the last month. But hopefully today's gains are the first of many.
Good news for Rand Merchant Investment Holdings shareholders. The company will be returning 36 billion rand to the shareholders, and they plan to list Outsurance. Help us make sense of those developments.
Yes, so RMI is an investment holding company. They have three major assets, their biggest one being Outsurance. They also own a quarter of Discovery, and they own a quarter of Momentum, the other insurance companies. And what they're effectively doing is they're spinning out all those assets and returning them to shareholders. The reason for doing this is investment holding companies have fallen out of favor with international investors or investors in general. And the asset itself was trading at a discount to the underlying assets. And by spinning out all of these assets and giving them directly to shareholders, that value, the unlocking value for shareholders, and we've seen the RMI share price up 50% over the last year as a result.
Blue Label shares have surged by over 10% at the back of the new deal to restructure and refine Cell C. What's happening there?
Yeah, so Blue Label's a 45% shareholder of Cell C. Cell C's been a bit of a dud, unfortunately. The company's got way too much debt and has been struggling to turn around. This morning they announced a restructuring of the company, which will significantly reduce the debt burden. Having a lower debt burden will give Cell C more room to maneuver and implement efficiencies, and hopefully become a third dominant player locally. They've been fading a bit. And this is seen as very positive news for Blue Label, which has been under pressure since they bought the 45% in Cell C.
Michael Treherne, portfolio manager at Vestact. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.